The twin suns of Zarnok 5 burned hot above the endless desert. The sand shimmered like gold, but it offered no beauty. Only heat, silence, and death. Nothing moved, except the vultures. They circled slowly in the pale sky, black wings gliding above a broken shape half buried in the sand. It was a woman, an alien woman. Her golden skin was burned, her lips cracked, her arms scratched by thorny wind. Her long white hair was tangled with dust. One side of her face was swollen. Her legs didn't move, but she was alive, barely. Her name was Seraha, and she had once belonged to a noble alien family. Now she belonged to no one. Her own parents had left her here, thrown her from their ship like trash. Her body rolled down a sand dune. Her eyes watched the engines fly away, never looking back. They believed she was cursed, and on Zarnok 5, cursed things were left for vultures. For 3 days she had not eaten, she had not spoken, but now her fingers twitched. Her throat, dry like broken glass, formed a single word. Help! No one heard her, until a sound broke the silence. Wheels. A small human transport truck rolled over the nearby ridge, leaving deep tracks in the sand. Inside sat a man. Human, wearing dusty armor and a brown hat pulled low over his face. His name was Daniel Cross, and he was just a cargo driver, or so people thought. Daniel had seen many things on many planets, but something about the scene ahead made him stop. He hit the brakes. Sand blew around the truck as it came to a halt. Through his cracked windshield, he saw the vultures circling. Then he saw her. He grabbed a canteen and jumped down. Seraha didn't move when he approached. Her eyes were almost closed. He kneeled beside her and poured a little water onto her lips. She gasped, more from surprise than thirst. Her eyes opened just enough to see the strange being in front of her. A human? She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. Don't touch me. Daniel paused. She looked scared. No. Terrified. Easy, he said. I'm not here to hurt you. She tried to turn her head away. I'm cursed. Daniel frowned. I don't care. He gently slid his arms under her. She was light, too light. Skin and bones. As he lifted her, the vultures flew away in silence. Back at his small outpost a few miles away, Daniel placed her on a cot inside a metal shack. The room was simple. Tools on the wall, water tanks in the corner, one solar fan, spinning slowly. He gave her more water, this time drop by drop. Then a protein bar broken into tiny pieces. Seraha's eyes stayed on him, full of confusion. Why? She finally asked. Daniel sat down on an old crate. Why what? Why help me? He looked at her for a moment, then shrugged. Because you're breathing. That's good enough. That night, Seraha rested. She didn't sleep. She couldn't. In her mind, she saw the face of her father, the last thing she saw before he pushed the eject button. Cold. Unfeeling. You bring shame, he had said. You will bring death. She had begged, but they never listened. The next morning, Daniel brought a small bowl of soup. It was basic, just broth and dry vegetables, but hot. Seraha sat up slowly. She took the bowl with both hands. Thank you, she said. Daniel nodded. You got a name? Seraha. Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel. She looked at him closely. You don't believe in curses? He chuckled. I've been cursed since birth, probably. Doesn't mean I leave people in the dirt. She stared. Down at her soup, softly she whispered, They left me. My own blood. Daniel's voice was quiet. Then you're free now. Later that day, as Daniel fixed a solar panel, Seraha sat nearby, wrapped in a blanket. She slowly pulled off her glove. On the back of her hand was a strange mark, dark red, shaped like a flame, pulsing faintly. Daniel noticed. His eyes narrowed. That mark. I've seen it before. Saraha's breath caught. Where? In an old war file. Some kind of ancient bloodline. Dangerous. Powerful. Her hands trembled. It's why they threw me away. Daniel looked at her for a long moment, then he said something no one had ever told her. That's not a curse, Saraha, that's a signal. She blinked. A signal? He nodded. And someone out there is probably still watching. Outside, in the far distance, something moved under the sand, watching, waiting, and smiling. Saraha had always believed people left. Her parents. Her clan. Her protectors. They all left when they saw the mark. It didn't matter how kind she was, how careful she had lived. The moment they saw the flame-shaped scar on her hand, they saw only one thing. Doom. So when the human named Daniel Cross found her, fed her, and carried her through the desert, she expected the same ending. She expected him to run, but he didn't. He stayed. Daniel cooked every morning. Nothing fancy, just boiled roots, rehydrated meat, and black dust coffee that smelled like firewood. Saraha ate slowly, quietly. Daniel didn't ask too many questions. He just fixed machines and hummed old Earth songs. Sometimes he talked about boring things, how he used to haul cargo for mining companies, how he once saw a firestorm on Jupiter's moon, how he never liked cats but somehow loved sandstorms. Saraha listened, and for the first time in her life, silence didn't feel like judgment. It felt like peace. One evening, while Daniel repaired a broken solar battery, Saraha stepped out of the shack. Her legs were stronger now. She limped over, sat beside him, and watched quietly. He glanced at her. You don't talk much. She looked down. Words don't fix much. He tightened a bolt. Maybe not. But they keep you company while you wait for the fixing. She thought about that for a while, then asked, You still think I'm not cursed? Daniel paused. I think you were told a story that hurt you, and I think you believed it so long, it became part of your skin. She blinked slowly. And the mark? Daniel turned toward her, serious now. That mark? I think it scares the wrong people. Power often does. That night, Saraha couldn't sleep. Something pulled at her chest. A strange hum, like a song she didn't know, calling her from beneath the sand. She stepped outside. The air was cool. The stars above Zarnak 5 shimmered like cold diamonds. She pulled off her glove. The mark on her hand glowed faintly, brighter than before. She held it up to the sky. It pulsed. Once. Twice. And in the distance, a shadow moved. Next morning, Daniel checked the camera sensors near the ridge. He frowned. What is it? Saraha asked. He turned the screen toward her. On it was a tall figure, black body, thin limbs, no face, just glowing red eyes. It stood on the cliff above the camp, watching. It didn't come closer? She asked. No. Just watched all night. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. She looked down at her hand. They've found me. Daniel stepped closer. Who? She hesitated. I don't know their name. My people only told stories about beings that hunt the marked ones, creatures made of silence and dust. They erase everything the flame touches. Daniel folded his arms. Well, lucky for you, I'm not easy to erase. They set up defense lines that day. Daniel placed old auto turrets on the sand. He boosted the camp's shields and locked all supply crates, even made a new bunker below the shack. Saraha helped. She could barely lift tools, but she kept watch, eyes always scanning the horizon. They're waiting, she said. They don't want to kill me yet. Daniel glanced at her. Then what do they want? Her voice dropped. They want to own me, to use the flame inside. That night, Saraha sat beside the small fire Daniel built from scrap wood. She held out her hand. The flame mark glowed again, but this time, it danced. Daniel watched. Does it hurt? He asked. She shook her head. Not pain. It's alive, like it's listening. To what? To you, she whispered. To this place, to this peace. Daniel stared at her hand. What happens if you let it out? Saraha looked at him. I don't know. No one ever let me try. Daniel stood up. Then maybe it's time someone did. Suddenly the security alarm beeped once, then twice. Something was moving outside the camp. Daniel grabbed his blaster. Saraha stepped behind him. They opened the door slowly. There, just beyond the last sandbank, a figure stood. Tall. Still. Its eyes, burning red. It raised one long black arm and pointed straight at Saraha. Then it spoke, not through sound, but inside their minds. Give us the flame, or we will take it. Saraha gasped. Her knees buckled. Daniel stepped in front of her. You'll have to burn through me first. The figure tilted its head, then vanished. Saraha stared at Daniel. Why? Why do you keep protecting me? He looked her in the eyes. Because you've never had someone who did, and maybe that's why the flame's been waiting. The morning wind on Zarnak 5 was colder than usual. A thin layer of silver dust blew over the sand, covering tracks, hiding movements. The air felt wrong, heavy. Even the sun seemed dim behind a strange veil of sky. Daniel stood on the roof of the shack, scanning the desert with a pair of old binoculars. He had survived battlefields, alien jungles, and deep space raids. But something about this silence made his fingers twitch on his blaster. Below, Saraha sat cross-legged, her eyes closed, her glowing hand resting over her heart. She was meditating, or trying to. The mark on her skin had changed again. It no longer looked like a flame. It had grown into something more. Now it looked like a circle made of fire with smaller rings turning slowly inside it. It pulsed every few seconds, sending a light breeze through her white hair. Daniel climbed down. You okay? He asked. Saraha opened her eyes slowly. It's getting stronger. He knelt beside her. What is? The bond between me and something. Something old. Something watching me. I can feel it now. Not just the creatures out there. Something underneath. Daniel turned on the camp's sensors. Well, let's focus on what's out there first. He pulled up the night recordings. Again, the black figures had appeared near the ridge, but this time, there were 3 of them. Standing still. Not walking, not blinking. Just watching. But there was something worse. On the far edge of the camera's view, a new figure appeared. Taller, hunched, with glowing red symbols across its body. It didn't move like the others. It glided over the sand. Daniel froze the screen. What is that? Saraha stood behind him, her face pale. That's a seeker. Daniel turned to her. A what? She spoke slowly. They are not soldiers. They are collectors. They find marked ones, they don't fight, they whisper, and then we walk to them. Willingly. You're saying they control minds? They don't have to, she whispered. The mark listens to them. Daniel swore under his breath. Then we need to move. Now. But Saraha shook her head. It's too late. If we run, they'll follow. And worse. I think they want me to run. Daniel stared at her. Why? She looked him in the eyes. Because I'm still resisting. The rest of the day passed slowly. Too slowly. Saraha helped Daniel pack a backup shuttle, just in case, but her thoughts were far away. She felt the seeker's presence like a fog in her mind, a soft, cold whisper, asking again and again, let go. Let go. Give us the flame. She bit her lip until it bled just to keep her focus. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat outside with his rifle, watching the sand shimmer in the moonlight. Then, something flickered in the distance. He raised his scope. A figure. standing alone near a dead tree. But this time, it wasn't just staring. It was smiling. A wide, inhuman grin carved into its face like a split mask. Then it spoke inside his head. You protect her like she's yours, but she is ours. Her fire belongs to us. Her light was never meant to warm your kind. Daniel lowered the scope. He aimed, fired. The figure vanished into black smoke. No sound. No body. Nothing left. He ran inside. Saraha! She was already standing in the center of the shack, arms shaking, the mark on her hand burning red now, not blue. I felt it too, she said. They're pushing harder now. Daniel placed his hands on her shoulders. Then push back. I don't know how. Yes, you do. She looked up at him, and this time she didn't look like a victim. She looked like someone waking up. She walked outside, barefoot, and faced the dark horizon. Her hair lifted in the wind. The mark on her hand flared like fire catching fuel. She raised her arm and shouted into the desert, I am not yours. I do not belong to the curse. I carry the flame, because I was born to guard it, not give it. The desert shook. Sand exploded into the air, and a shock wave of pure white-blue light ripped through the land. The seeker's whisper vanished. The black figures at the ridge screamed and dissolved into ash. Daniel covered his face as the wind passed, through him like a burning wave. Then silence returned. Saraha collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Daniel ran to her. You did it. No, she said softly. We did. The mark listened, not to them, but to you. He helped her up. She smiled weakly. You're the first person I met who didn't run, the first who stood between me and the curse. Daniel looked at her, hand now glowing softly again, gentle like a lantern in the dark. You think that was the last of them? He asked. Saraha shook her head. No, that was just the beginning. The fire inside Saraha was growing. She could feel it in her bones, in her blood, in her thoughts, and it scared her. The day after the Seeker attack, the desert seemed calm again. Too calm. The sky above Zarnak 5 was soft and gold, but the air felt heavy, like something was waiting. Daniel checked the perimeter. The cameras were clean. No movement, no strange shadows, no more watchers. But Saraha, she couldn't rest. She stood near the cliff edge, wind brushing her white hair, staring far into the dunes. The mark on her hand pulsed softly. No longer angry, no longer in pain. It was awake. And for the first time, it felt alive inside her, like another heart. That night, while Daniel was asleep, Saraha quietly packed a water flask, wrapped herself in a dark robe, and walked away from the camp. The sand shifted beneath her feet, soft but endless. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. In her heart, one thought burned. If I stay, he'll die. Hours passed. Her legs shook, but she didn't stop. The farther she got from Daniel, the colder the mark became. Like it was warning her, like it was grieving, but she didn't care. I won't be the reason another good soul dies, she whispered to herself. Back at the outpost, Daniel woke up suddenly. The cot beside the heater was empty. He looked around. Her gloves were gone. The water flask, too. He ran outside. Her footprints led toward the horizon. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed a coat, a pack, and his old rifle, and followed her into the desert. The heat rose quickly. Daniel ran across the sand, breath heavy, muscles aching. He wasn't young anymore. But this wasn't about strength. This was about her. By the time he found her, she had collapsed against a rock, face pale, lips dry, her arms curled around her knees. Her eyes were half closed. The mark on her hand was dim, barely glowing. Daniel knelt beside her and gently shook her shoulder. What the hell were you thinking? Her lips moved barely. You weren't supposed to follow me, Daniel growled. Of course I was. You'll die. Then I'll die walking toward you, not watching you disappear, Saraha looked at him weakly. I'm dangerous, Daniel. No, you're scared. There's a difference. She blinked. I felt it. The mark. It was warning me. He looked at her hand. Then maybe it's not just a curse. Maybe it's part of you. A part that's tired of running. He lifted her into his arms. She didn't resist. As he carried her back toward the camp, she whispered, "You're not afraid of me?" He didn't stop walking. No. I'm afraid for you. That's different. That evening, back in the safety of the shack, Saraha sat by the heater wrapped in a blanket. Her face had color again. Her breath was steady. She stared at the small flame Daniel had lit in a metal cup. It flickered softly, casting shadows on the wall. Then she raised her marked hand toward it. The flame rose, not wild, not loud, just brighter, and it changed color, from yellow to silver blue. Daniel watched in silence. Saraha whispered, "It responds to will." "To emotion," Daniel added. "No," she said, turning to him. "To truth." She stood slowly. "I thought I had to protect you by leaving." Daniel looked at her. "And what do you think now?" She stared at her hand. "I think I'm stronger when I stay." Suddenly, a low hum shook the shack. The motion sensor blinked red. Daniel stood fast. "We have company." Saraha walked to the door. When she opened it, her eyes widened. Outside, the sand had parted. A deep hole had opened in the ground, like the planet itself had cracked open. At the bottom, something ancient glowed, a spiral staircase made of light. Daniel stepped beside her. "That wasn't there before." Saraha nodded slowly. "No, but it's been waiting." Daniel turned to her. "What is that?" Saraha spoke without fear. "The mark didn't only wake up enemies, it woke up a path." She looked at Daniel with calm, clear eyes. "I'm done running." He smiled softly. "Good, because I wasn't letting you go far anyway." Saraha took his hand. "Then let's see where this path leads." Together, they stepped toward the glowing spiral. Down into the earth, down into memory, down into something lost long ago. And far above, in the shadows of space, a fleet of black ships turned slowly, drawn to the flame. Nightfall on Zarnak 5 was never truly dark. 2 moons hung in the sky like watchful eyes, casting long silver shadows over the camp. The desert wind was sharp and dry, whispering across the sand like a warning. Inside the outpost, Daniel stood at the window with his rifle on the table beside him. He could feel it in his gut. Something was coming. Saraha stood near the underground stairwell, where the glowing spiral had appeared the day before. She had not slept since they returned. The mark on her hand was burning again, this time not with fear, but with anger. "They're close," she said. Daniel stepped beside her, watching the sand beyond the ridge. "How many?" Saraha didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "Enough to end everything." They didn't run. They didn't hide. Instead, they prepared. Daniel reinforced the outpost walls with metal plates. He activated the turrets, checked the shields, and charged every last power cell. Saraha walked the edges of the camp, dragging her glowing hand through the dirt, drawing ancient runes that hummed with light. When she finished, she stood at the center of the camp. "This place is now warded." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Magic?" She smiled. "Something older?" Just before moonrise, the silence broke. A deep, distant howl echoed across the sands. Then came the sound of many feet, thousands of feet, skittering over stone, clawing over dunes, cracking bone and metal as they moved. Daniel climbed to the tower and lifted his scope. His breath caught. The desert was full of black figures, creatures like smoke wrapped in armor, eyes glowing red, crawling, running, gliding toward the camp. At the front walked the Seeker, taller now, its face split. With a twisted grin, its body wreathed in red fire, Daniel clicked the comm. "They're here." Saraha stepped outside. The runes she had drawn began to glow. The Seeker paused just before the outer line. It spoke, its voice cold and cruel, shaking the walls. "You've delayed the flame's return long enough. This world will burn, and the cursed girl will kneel." Saraha walked calmly to the edge of the camp. "I am not cursed," she said clearly. "I am chosen." The Seeker tilted its head. "Then burn with your chosen fate." It raised one hand. The creatures charged. Everything exploded into chaos. Daniel opened fire from the rooftop. His blaster lit up the night, dropping the first wave of beasts before they touched the walls. The turrets activated, spinning and cutting down shadows in beams of heat. Saraha raised both hands. The runes on the ground burst into flames. Walls of light rising between her and the attackers. Creatures slammed into them and screamed, disintegrating into smoke. But the Seeker didn't stop. It walked forward slowly, through the fire. The flames bent around it. The runes dimmed where it stepped. Saraha ran toward it, not away. With every step, her body glowed brighter. Her mark extended past her hand, wrapping around her arms, her chest, even her face. She looked like a figure made of fire and memory. The Seeker lifted its clawed hand, but Saraha struck first. She threw both arms forward, and a blast of pure energy erupted from her chest. It hit the Seeker like a mountain. The creature screamed, its first true sound of pain. Daniel climbed down and ran to her side. "We can't hold them all." "Yes, we can," Saraha said, breathing hard. "But not with defense." She looked back at the spiral hole behind them. She pointed. "That's the source. That's where I must go." Daniel blinked. "Now? In the middle of a war? It's calling me. It holds the rest of the flame. I can feel it." Daniel looked at the battlefield, then at her. He nodded once. "I'll hold them." She touched his shoulder, eyes soft. "You're not just saving me. You're saving what I'm becoming." As Saraha ran toward the glowing spiral, Daniel turned back to the gate. The Seeker was rising again, burned, damaged, but still moving. It raised its blade arm. Daniel planted his feet and aimed high. "Come on," he growled. "Let's dance." Above them all, the sky pulsed once. A red crack split through the stars, and something began descending from it. Something massive, something ancient. But beneath the camp, Saraha was already gone, stepping into light, into memory, into the fire of a past no one remembered, except the flame. The spiral staircase beneath the outpost didn't feel like stone. It felt like memory. Each step Saraha took echoed softly, as if someone or something was walking beside her. The walls pulsed faintly with blue and gold light, carved with glowing lines that curved and danced like fire frozen in motion. This place wasn't built, it was grown. As she walked deeper, her mark brightened, no longer red or angry. Now it shined with calm white flame, wrapping around her wrist and up her arm like a living ribbon. Saraha wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. At the bottom of the spiral, she entered a vast underground chamber. It was shaped like a dome, large, enough to hold a small ship. In the center stood an altar, smooth, round, and glowing with white fire. Floating just above it was a sphere of light, swirling like smoke trapped in glass. She approached slowly, her heart beat in rhythm with the light. Thump, thump, thump. When she reached the altar, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. Not loud, not human. A voice like a gentle wind through ancient trees. "Daughter of flame, you have returned." Saraha's breath caught. "Who are you?" "We are the flame keepers. Echoes of your blood. You carry what we once protected." She raised her glowing hand. The mark burned like sunlight now. "You were never cursed," the voice continued. "You were sealed, hidden, for your own safety." Saraha took a step closer. "Why?" "Because the flame you carry is a living power, one that can destroy or heal. And long ago it was used for war. Images filled the chamber walls, ancient battles, dragons of light fighting beasts made of black ash, flame keepers riding through, galaxies carrying stars in their palms. Then, betrayal. One of their own turned against them, opened a gate to the dark, let the null flame into the galaxy. The traitor burned whole worlds, he created the Seekers, he hunted our kind, until we were forced to hide the last flame bond in an unborn child. Siraha stared at her hand. You, Siraha, you are that child, the last of our light. She fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. My whole life, I thought I was poison. My family left me to die. They believed lies passed down in fear, but you have found the truth. The sphere of light floated, down toward her. Take the flame. Become who you were always meant to be. Siraha stood slowly. She reached out with both hands. The moment she touched the sphere, it shattered into her. Light poured into her skin, her bones, her mind. She saw galaxies spinning. She saw faces, dozens of flame keepers, men, women, and creatures of every kind. They smiled at her, welcoming her home. Back on the surface, Daniel was bleeding. He knelt behind a burning turret, his shoulder hit by a Seeker's blade. The creatures were pressing in. The warding runes were flickering, fading. He raised his weapon again, hand shaking. Then the air changed. The ground hummed, a sound like 100 voices singing under the earth. Then the earth split open. From the center of the camp, a tower of white flame shot into the sky, and Siraha rose with it, floating, alive, transformed. Her robes were gone, replaced by shining armor made of glowing light. Her eyes were no longer blue. They were flame gold, swirling like tiny stars. Wings of pure fire stretched from her back, soft, endless, beautiful. She held her arms wide, and the mark on her body was now complete, like a crown of fire wrapping around her skin. The Seekers froze. Even the giant beast descending from the sky above paused. Then Siraha spoke. Her voice echoed across worlds. You called me cursed. You tried to chain me. You hunted me since birth. Now hear me. I am the flame, reborn. And you are unmade. She raised her hand. A wall of light burst outward, washing over the entire battlefield. Seekers screamed as they dissolved into ash and light. The black beast in the sky shrieked and pulled back, but Siraha pointed to the stars and sent a spear of flame flying into the clouds. It struck the creature through the chest. It exploded in silence, falling like dying starlight. Daniel dropped his weapon, eyes wide, heart pounding. He barely recognized her, but when she landed beside him, softly, like fire settling on snow, he saw the same face, the same eyes, only now full of peace. She knelt beside him and placed her hand on his wound. Light flowed through her fingers. The pain vanished. The skin healed. Daniel blinked. You really are something else. She smiled. No more running. No more hiding. I'm everything they feared, and everything they needed. Daniel stood slowly. So what now? She looked at the stars, glowing brighter than ever. We rebuild. We protect. And we make sure no other child of fire grows up thinking they're broken. Daniel nodded. And I'm staying by your side. She took his hand. You always were. The war had ended, but peace had not yet begun. The sands of Zarnak 5 were still smoking. The wind still carried the scent of ash and light. Shattered Seeker weapons lay buried beneath crumbled stone and scorched metal. The sky above was quiet, now too quiet. Siraha stood at the center of the battlefield, barefoot on cracked earth, her body glowing faintly with the last flickers of ancient flame. Her flame-born armor had faded, replaced once more by simple cloth and quiet breath. But her eyes had changed forever. She was no longer afraid. She was no longer hiding. She was whole. Daniel sat on a nearby rock, wrapping a bandage around his wrist. His shirt was torn, his face dusty, but his eyes watched her like the sun itself had chosen to walk among them. He had never known anyone like her. Not in war, not in peace, not in legend. She walked toward him slowly, wind curling around her, figure like it obeyed her now. He stood up and smiled. So, what do we call you now? Queen? Guardian? Goddess? Saraha chuckled softly. I think I've had enough names for one life. Daniel tilted his head. And what do you want now? She looked out toward the dunes, and for a long moment, she said nothing. Then finally, I want to build. In the days that followed, Saraha and Daniel didn't leave Zarnak 5. They rebuilt it. They reactivated ancient systems beneath the outpost. The light spiral returned underground, but now it stayed open, its warmth flowing up through the sand like spring water. It gave the camp heat, energy, even purified air. Miners and survivors from nearby colonies began to arrive. They brought stories of other seekers, other marks, other children abandoned in fear. They asked Saraha, "What are we now?" And she told them, "Flame-born, not cursed, chosen." Daniel helped build shelters. He trained people how to shoot, how to plant, how to live in this wild place. Saraha taught them how to listen, to the ground, to the light, to the flame within. She no longer feared her power. She shared it. And slowly, the desert began to change. One night, Daniel and Saraha stood at the edge of the cliff, where he had once found her broken and alone. The same vultures circled above. But now, they didn't come close. Even death had learned to respect her. "You were right," Daniel said, arms folded. "You weren't cursed." Saraha nodded, watching the twin moons rise. "You were right, too." "About what?" "About staying." She turned to face him, eyes soft. "I've never said this, not out loud, but you saved me." Daniel smiled. "You mean dragging you out of the sand and pouring warm soup down your throat?" She stepped closer. "No, I mean, you didn't try to change me. You didn't fear me. You saw who I was before I did." He went quiet, then softly, "I guess we both needed saving." Their hands touched, not with fire, not with magic, just two people, scarred, healing, alive. The next day, a ship arrived in orbit, but it didn't carry soldiers. It carried questions. Representatives from allied planets came to speak with the Flamekeeper. They had seen the battle from space, felt the pulse in their bones. The old stories were waking. Saraha met them on the sand. She did not kneel. They asked her, "Will you join our council?" She asked them, "Will you protect the next marked child?" There was silence. Then one old ambassador said, "We were wrong." Saraha nodded. "Then help me build something right." And so it began. The Sanctuary of Flame, a new home, a school, a temple, and a fortress all in one, built on top of the light spiral, open to all species. The cursed became teachers, the hunted became healers, and in the center of it all stood a statue of a woman with a glowing mark on her hand, holding a small fire, offering it to the stars. Daniel never left her side. He became the sanctuary's first guardian commander. Not magical, not chosen, but dependable, human. When young flame-born children asked, "Are the stories true?" he'd smile and say, "Every single word." Years passed. The galaxy changed. The null flame never returned, its army shattered, its name forgotten. But Saraha's name, it was whispered with respect in 1,000 systems, not as a goddess, not as a savior, but as a survivor who chose to share her strength. One quiet evening, Daniel stood with Saraha on the same cliff once more, both older now, both full of stories. He looked at her with a half-smile. "Do you ever miss the silence?" She laughed. "Not a bit," he chuckled. "Good. Because tomorrow, 50 flame-born kids are landing from another system, and I'm not the one giving the welcome speech." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You never were." He looked down at her mark, still glowing, still calm. Then, up at the stars, funny, he said, how it started with one broken girl in the sand. Siraha closed her eyes and finished it, and one human who didn't walk away.